Sorry.
My bad.
All right.
I was like, look, where we going? I made her right in the back. Just talking, yeah. I don't know. I didn't get her name. Yeah.
After you've checked in, you know the drill. I think this is round 4 of 6. You can scan the code or tinyurl.com/402 FA 24B. 402 FA 24B. I think this is time 4 of 6 that will take this. I believe.
My best friend, she's graduating, this semester. I'm like, hey,
That was me, yeah, Jackie's. I'm jealous.
Simple.
Okay, I want to talk for a few minutes about, I'm gonna say app 2, but it's also about the methods, your final project. So, your final project, again, we're all doing the same thing. We're all looking at these variables. So we're looking at how much stress you're experiencing, and we're looking at it in these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different areas. We're looking at what strategies you're using to cope with stress, and we're looking at that in those 6 areas, one of which is a negative strategy. We're looking at your overall well-being and you're looking at your motivation to graduate. So what you're gonna be doing is looking at the relationships of these things, like, if your coping strategy is self-criticism, my guess is that's gonna be a negative correlation with well-being. If you have high stress, is that gonna decrease your well-being, or will it not decrease your well-being because you're using positive coping strategies? So we have all these variables, and you're gonna be looking at the relationships between these variables. You're actually gonna be doing it two analyses. One, you're gonna take the entire data set of everybody, and then you're gonna take a little slice of data, which is gonna be your own data. Just so you can get a sense of like, oh, when I was like super stressed about school, my well-being was low, but when I was problem solving, my well-being was better. So you'll kind of look at that on a personal level. But we're all basically doing we all are doing the same topic. And we're all basically using the same data set. And the only reason I say basic is there'll be roughly 150 responses by the time we're done. And so let's assume there's 150. All of you will probably get like 149 of those. I'll make them just this much different so you can't copy each other's analysis. But that's everybody's topic. And the reason we do it this way, rather than you all having to do your own thing, is because when you all do your own thing, and I used to do that, it makes collecting data a pain in the rear because you all have to go collect your own data. Okay. So this way, and you all have it even easier because you are your own data set. Okay, in the past, we've gone outside and gotten data, but you are your own data set. Okay. So that's what your final project is going to be. So in application 2, which about 2/3 of you did, for the other 1/3, you're gonna have to do it. It's gonna be part of your final project, so you're gonna end up doing it anyway. It's writing the methods section. So the methods section tells us how, what we're measuring and what we're doing. So it's gonna look like this. Okay, this project uses what design? Is it cross-sectional? Is it longitudinal? Is it experimental? When we're collecting data at 6 different time points across time. Okay, and you're gonna tell me cross-sectional is this, longitudinal is this, whatever. Okay. This paragraph I've given you. You don't need to change anything about this paragraph. Primary instrument data collection was an online questionnaire. The instrument measured stress, coping strategies, overall well-being, and motivation to graduate. The next paragraph I've given you, okay. Stressors was measured using an 8-item interval. So some of you forgot to tell me the measurement level. Scale included 5 subscales. Okay. You don't know what those subscales are. And there's a link to this document, right? So here's our 5 subscales: related, family, financial, school, social. Scale asks participants to indicate in the past week, how often have you? So if you're not sure, you can look at the survey, and again, there's a link to it. The past week, how often have you? Okay, we call it the STEM. Sample items include, and I gave 2, felt overwhelmed by school demands, felt isolated or lonely. Options for responses range from not at all, which we're gonna call a 1, because it's interval, to almost always 5. These 2 paragraphs, you don't need to change anything. Okay. Coping was measured, so follow the format. Using a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 item interval level scale. Measured from not at all, we usually say 1. Somebody said 0, which is fine, but we usually call that 1. I realize not at all kind of makes sense as a 0, but we usually call that 1. To almost always 5. Everybody answered in the past week, how often have you, and then pick 2 sample items. This one also has subscales. How would you know that? Because it's on this sheet, coping strategies, 5 subscales. problem solving, cognitive restructuring, instrumental support, emotional support. Or 1, 2, 3, 6 subscales. Okay. So if you look back, and I realize there's a lot of like jumping around, but if you look back at stress, included 5 subscales, so coping includes 6 subscales. Bless you. Wow, I feel like we should all, 1, 2, 3, bless you, there we go. Included 6 subscales and list what they are, okay? Ask participants to indicate, I think it also says in the past week, okay, sample items include, so coping is gonna look just like that, okay? Overall well-being, okay? I told you where that one came from, World Health Organization Wellbeing Index. So we can again go here. 5 items. Starts with this, goes from here to here, it's interval, 2 sample items, there's no subscales here. Motivation to graduate. 2 items. Range from this to this, starts with this step. It's just the same format. This can say the same. Procedures can say the same. Some of you added like the sampling and whatnot, which was great, honestly, but you didn't need to. In case you're curious, so oftentimes like in well-being, I said using World Health Organization Wellbeing Index. So frequently we would say where these came from. I mixed and matched. I used a couple different scales for stressing and a couple different scales for coping. I picked the ones I liked, which is why I didn't tell you where they were coming from. So it should be, and I think once you like understand what you're trying to do here, fairly simple. It's just plug and play. It's just plug and play. Okay. Several of you did it, aced it, no problem, you're good. Okay. Some of you were very close. Up to you whether it's worth redoing it and changing your grade from 38 to 40, but I don't care. Okay. Some of you were just confused. Okay, that's fine. If that was you, if for any reason, if you did it, okay, if you turned it in and want to improve your grade, and I emailed all of you, you're welcome to resubmit it. If you did not do it, you've kind of missed that chance, but it is going to be part of your final project. So you will need to know how to do it.
How do you resubmit it?
I think just email it to me.
Oh,
Yeah. If you need the instructions again, let me know. I don't really want to reopen it because it causes a whole mess of things. What questions do you have about that? Okay, so again, that's going to be part of your final project. So even if you did not do that assignment, you'll need to know how to do that. And I'm gonna skip way ahead here. November 12th, so a couple weeks away, is when you'll first get your data for your final project. And then you're probably not gonna do a lot with it then. And actually I may not even get to you the 21st. So you'll get it and you can start analyzing then. You'll have plenty of time to work on it. Okay. All these days that say project data analysis is a work day. It's my fancy way of like saying it's a work day. That'll be another day. I'll be like, I recommend you come to class, but so you'll have 2 to 3 days of in class to do it. You'll have plenty of time to do it, There is, we do a day where we present to each other. That is a 1 slide, 1 minute presentation. It's like this. It's just really just to share. It's not like I don't really care about your presentation. I just want people to share what they found, what they thought. Okay. Just to give you an idea of timing there. We'll look at that again at the end. What I want to know now, not that I need to know now, but I since you're thinking about this. Don't scan this yet. I should have showed it to you. It's like a tease. So for your final project, you can do it by yourself. I would say in general, roughly 2/3 of people do it by themselves. You have lots of group projects during your college career. Many of you are sick and tired of them. You're sick of that whole thing. This is easy to do by yourself. Sometimes it's easier to do by yourself because you don't have to coordinate schedules and who's doing that. And then, Grace is mad at Colton because he was late and, just, so if you're like, no, I just want to do it by myself, like perfectly capable, again, probably 2/3 of people just choose to do this by yourselves. If you really want to work with somebody, one other person, so no more than 2 people, you can do that. I just, for now, want you to tell me. So this is gonna be, when I finally let you scan, it's just gonna be like, do you wanna work by yourself, with someone else, or have no preference? Okay. If you wanna work with someone else, I ask you like, who would you like to? I think I have it 2 ways. Who would you like to work with? And then who do you like absolutely have to? So every once in a while, someone's like, they're my roommate, whatever, I don't know. And then I ask you another question of like, is there anybody like absolutely do not put me with them and tell me why? So that's what you're gonna see here. If you just say like, if your first question is, I wanna work by myself, you can just hit submit. You don't need to even do the rest of it. Okay. And if you're not sure, you can still change your mind. You got a couple weeks to change your mind, but I wanna get a feel and start putting this together. What questions do you have about like the process of by yourself with another person? Pretty straightforward. It really is. A lot of people find it just easier to do by themselves. Like you don't have to coordinate schedules. You're doing this part, I'm doing that part. Up to you though. It's totally up to you. Like we're besties and we have to spend every moment of the time together. Go for it. All right, now you may scan. Yes, ma'am.
Actually, I'll just wait, because it's like a personal, like.
Do you come to you now when people are doing this or?
Sure, yeah, I could have came up to you too.
I only just take one. Biology. And I'm literally done. I need 8 credits left and 4 of that is biology and then that's another 4. Four of it will be,
Okay, sounds good.
but I've taken
Free
extra
after class,
classes.
if you're available, come out. we can-
So I think,
Okay, let's do after, yeah.
and this is 12, which must
All
be
right,
internship.
everybody good with that? I think that's pretty short.
Yeah, so I'm confused.
All right.
This is the
All right, so today we've already talked about the project and app two. What's really hard to say? I'm gonna show you just some data, brief review of correlations and t-tests. Then we're gonna talk about using data to make recommendations. What we call quantitative reasoning. This won't affect you, but the general education requirements have changed. I don't know if you heard this or not for ASU, like the new first year students. So this class, for them, will meet one of their gen ed requirements, quantitative reasoning. So that's what we're gonna do. All right, just a little email newsletter I get because I'm geeky like that. About stats. So this one was how have song lyrics changed since the 1960s? And I just thought there was some interesting little ways to think about data. Percent of songs, like top 100 most popular songs since 1957 to 2016 by genre. I think it's a little dizzying, but like, let's see, what is my pink here? That's like nothing goes up, then comes way down. Looks like that's soul. Currently, we've got pop is the most popular. We kind of follow that. It's up and down, but it's like was near zero there. What's this huge spike here? Are you rock was up to 60% around 1980 and now is like down to almost zero. So there you have these programs. I've actually used them. It's interesting. You can pop text in the programs and it analyzes the words and like how many words are positive, how many are negative. So this is how positive lyrics have been since 1960. So here, almost 70% of lyrics were positive, and we're kind of in a somewhat steady decline. Which is sadly not that surprising, like you.
I feel like we need like an updated one.
Yeah, I agree. This is a little 2015. Things have changed a lot in the last, I think it's 10 years. Wow.
Yeah.
Hey, this was kind of interesting how complex the lyrics were. We went from like very simple to pretty complex. Although we're also way more repetitive. Anyway, just I thought that was kind of interesting. Interesting way to think about how we use data to tell stories. All right, quick review on correlations and t-tests. So first we talked about, well, I lost the slide, but oh well. Correlations. So correlation statistic measures the strength and direction of the relationship between two interval variables. They have to be interval because we're talking about movement. Okay. The statistic goes from +1 to -1. So if you see a number outside of this, it's not a correlation. At the edges are strong and then moderate and then weak. Positive correlations are best friends. Okay, they go everywhere together. So two things going in the same direction together. The more you study, the better your grade. Okay. Negative correlations are enemies. They're repulsed by each other. They always run away from each other. So they're going in opposite directions. Again, the stronger, the bigger that gap is. The more you play video games, the more hours you play video games, the lower your grade. So that's correlation. And then on Tuesday, we talked about t-test. So t-test compares two groups or one group at 2 points in time. Okay. And it takes the difference in their average score, okay, and then makes an inference about the population. Okay. So based on that difference, what's the probability that that difference applies to the population? So if I took data from people in the front row, what I want to know is what's the probability that it doesn't apply to everybody? Okay. And we talked about that, it hurts your brain because it's the probability, given this difference, it's the probability that difference does not exist in the population. And so it's like that weird double negative. Okay. So, I was thinking, I heard folks, and I get bombarded by the folks on the street too.
about like text friends to vote. And it is the season, right? It's in our brain. And so I was thinking of an example for correlations and t-tests. And I also get a little scared this time of year. Because right, we are a public institution. So we nor I mean, certainly in our private lives, we support candidates and causes, but here I am neutral. And I always get a little bit paranoid about not being, because you know, I had a professor in college one time, he taught a class about sects, SETS, cults and small denominations. And so we talking about all these like fringe religious movements, and every class he would come in and take the point of view of that group. It was amazing. It was amazing, but it drove us all crazy as students trying to figure out what he really believed. Because you would argue with him, he would be like whatever like weird cult you can think of, like he would come in and tell you that was the truth, and he would explain to you why that was the truth, and you would sit there going, no, but that's crazy, and he would tell you that was the truth. And you could not break him. That's a side point to like, I'm not that good, and so I always get a little nervous about like tipping you. You could probably guess, but anyway. All that to say, let's think about this in terms of data. Like if you were to try to predict my political views, I'm going to give you two pieces of data that are going to contradict each other intentionally, but they're both reality. So if we were to think about a correlation statistic, we know there is a strong, very strong positive correlation. I don't know the number, but I'm going to make it up. Let's say 0.70. Okay. Strong positive correlation between education level, so how much education you have, and your likelihood to vote Democratic. Okay. So very strong correlation, positive correlation between how much education you have and your likelihood to vote Democratic. Okay. So take 20 seconds, tell a friend what that means. Tell a friend, go.
Nudges.
It's higher education,
Like, yeah.
and it's like, you're like, to vote Democratic.
Likely you are. I made it in. Is that the problem?
Just like, I'd say, yeah.
Nice.
I know.
You hear me now? Clap twice. All right. Somebody tell me, the more education you have, the more likely you are to vote Democratic. The less education you have, the less likely you are to vote Democratic. Yep. Okay. So in case you're wondering, I have 2 master's degrees and a PhD. So you guess there. I'm gonna be subtle. I'm gonna do that one in blue and this one's in red. You can follow the symbolism there. However, okay, you may not have noticed this, but I am a white male. If we look on average, okay, I'm gonna make up the numbers because I don't know what the numbers are, but the data are true. Let's say 1 is likelihood to vote. We'll switch it. Likelihood to vote Republican. Okay, so 5 is very likely. Okay, so 5 is very likely to vote Republican. 1 is like very unlikely to vote Republican. Okay. We know that on average, okay, white males, again, I'm going to make up the number, okay, 3.8. Okay. There's a lot of places we could go, but we'll just go with white females. Okay, we could do this with non-white males. We could have the same result. 2.5. Again, I'm making up the numbers, but the general thing is true. Okay. White males, on average, way more likely to vote Republican. Let's say I took this from a sample, okay, and then I ran a t-test. The t-test told me there was a p-value of 0.03. Okay, 0.03. Okay. This one's a little harder, so take 30 seconds and tell a friend what that means.
So it is statistically significant.
Yeah, there's no sugar. Yeah.
I'm not gonna say that, but more.
It's less than.
So if it's less than, then it's significant.
Yes.
But there is difference.
So it's like. Or the Do you see what Eric did? October 20th. Saturday.
No, you don't put your hands down, that's correlation.
Oh.
Yeah, that's correlation. This is a correlation.
$40. I know, cause I'm like, I work 7 hours.
Okay, I'm gonna get you started. Okay. Given the difference in our sample means, okay, so given the difference between 3.8 and 2.5. Okay, so given that difference, there is a what percent?
Right.
3% probability or 3% chance that that difference doesn't actually exist. Or to say it another way, there's a 3% chance that this difference is a fluke. If I had the entire population, that difference would go away. Okay, I only have a sample. Okay, there's a 3% chance if I had the entire population, that difference would not exist. Okay. There's only a 3.3% chance. Am I pretty confident the difference actually exists? There's only a 3% chance it doesn't? Yeah, I'm pretty confident it actually exists. Okay. And again, this is below our magic number. Okay. I lost my marker, but below 0.05. Okay. So we would say this is statistically significant. Guess for yourself, which one predicts me? My 2 master's degree and a PhD, or the fact that I'm a white male? All right, questions about t-tests and correlations? Other than that, that's really hard and it makes your brain hurt. Yeah, I know. Again, in the grand scheme of things, when we're looking at point value on test assignments and stuff, this is like a tiny fraction. Okay. And t-tests in particular. Correlations, I think, are a little easier. So correlations, I will expect you to get this. T-tests and statistical significance is a little harder. A lot harder. I think a lot harder. Well, too late, I'm gonna ask. Not today, but in general, the next few weeks, would you want to keep practicing those? Or you're like, no, my brain hurts, just like leave it alone, I'm good.
I think it's like good for a refresher.
Okay, so I'll keep throwing those in there. All right. So as I told you last class, this is the hardest thing we will do. It's all downhill from here. Okay. So today we're going to talk about taking data, and making recommendations. And I'm going to give you a 4-step process. It's 4 steps I made up, but they work. I'm using data to make recommendations. So let's look, and the way we're going to do that is we're just going to look at examples. Okay. So let's think about this. The Underwater Basket Weaving Association, my favorite example, has hired you to conduct an evaluation of underwater basket weaving. They're interested in the relationship between underwater basket weaving and self-esteem. You sent out a survey, cross-sectional design, to 200 people. Okay, 100 participated in underwater basket weaving, 100 did not. Little n means how many people? We have 100 participated. Now you get your results back. Before I tell you the results, here's the four-step process that I'm gonna suggest, and I'll repeat this multiple times. If you don't get the rest. Number one, what conclusions can you make? Okay. In language that someone not taking this class would understand. Okay. Explain those conclusions. So, for example, going back to we'll do the correlation. Okay, I said the more education, the more likely you are to vote Democratic. Okay, I would not just say there is a strong positive correlation between education level and likely to vote Democratic, because then I'm going to tell you, what does that mean? I don't know what a strong positive correlation means. If you tell me it's strong negative, then I really don't know what that means. Okay, so you have to explain it in language that someone else would understand. As one goes up, the other goes up. Yeah. Sometimes it's like this group has a higher mean score than another group. That doesn't need further explanation. Okay, that's pretty simple. So just draw the conclusions. Okay, look at your correlations, look at your crosstabs. Okay, so remember crosstabs would be like what's our average scores in each group. Step 2, identify at least one plausible explanation for each result. Key here, plausible means possible explanation. Certainly in this class, and often even when we have more complicated data, you don't really have enough data to draw conclusions. And that's for class purposes, we're going to keep our data sets relatively simple. Okay. So you're just going to use your brain here. Okay. You're going to use your brain here to say one possible explanation for this result is. There is a strong positive correlation between education level and likelihood to vote Democratic. In other words, the more education you have, the more likely you are to vote Democratic. That's my conclusion. One possible explanation for this is you were indoctrinated by liberal professors. Every once in a while I hear that, and the joke is like, I can't get you to read the syllabus. Do you really think I'm indoctrinating you? You don't know that's the reason. You don't have enough data to say that's the reason. On average, white men are more likely to vote Republican than white women. One possible explanation for this is the Democratic candidate is a woman and the Republican candidate is a man. So again, you don't know that's the reason. Okay. Just you're going to put on your brain here and guess. Okay. Very important that you say one possible reason, one plausible explanation. Like you're not claiming that is the reason. And some of you are going to get frustrated because you're like, but I don't have enough data to really know. I'm like, I know you don't. I know you don't. Okay. I just want you to start thinking, start using your brain to do quantitative reasoning, take numbers and make a reasonable conclusion. Step 3, what do we do about it? What do we do about it? Identify specific program management recommendations that you would give based on these conclusions. Based on the fact that people with higher education are more likely to vote Democrat, the Democratic Party should target voter outreach efforts at people with higher education. Based on the fact that white men are more likely to vote Republican, the Republican Party should target outreach on white men. what should you do? Okay. Step 4, optional, but sometimes again, here I just want you to think, what are the limitations to your data? Here in a lot of cases, sometimes like I'm missing a whole bunch of other information. Okay. Or cross-sectional design, doesn't allow me to demonstrate causality. Okay. So let's say, again, higher education, I'm gonna regret using political examples today, but higher education, the more likely you are to vote Democratic. That doesn't tell me that education was what causes, because the cross-sectional doesn't causes me to vote Democratic. Okay. There is spuriousness there, random shit. Okay. It may be that universities are concentrated in the Northeast or in large cities or in the Northeast, and those people are more likely to vote Democratic, and that's the driving factor. Okay, so we can't always tell causality. And then like, what else do you want to know, or how would you change your design to help you? Like, how would you make this experimental? How would you make this longitudinal? Like, what other information is going to help you? Okay. All right. Let's get out of politics and back to underwater basket weaving. All right, so let's say people who participated in underwater basket weaving on average have higher self-esteem. So again, a little symbolism. Average is a little X with a bar over it. Or you'll see a capital M for mean. Let's say 5-point scale, self-esteem. See, these folks are 4.2. Who participated, these folks are 3.8. Okay. On average, people who participate in underwater basket weaving have higher self-esteem. Okay. The correlation between hours spent underwater basket weaving and self-esteem is negative 0.03. Negative 0.03. Remember, it's a correlation, not a t-test. Okay. Correlation between number of years spent underwater basket weaving and self-esteem is positive 0.50. This would be a crosstab. People ages 18 to 24. Running out of space here, 18 to 24, self-esteem, okay, and 25 to 34. Okay, or lower self-esteem than people ages 25. Okay, so let's say their self-esteem is 3.5 and theirs is 4.2. So these are the data you have to work with. All right. What conclusions can you make in language that someone else will understand? Let's start with the simple one. People who participate in underwater basket weaving have higher self-esteem than people who do not. Okay. People aged 25 to 34 have higher self-esteem than people younger than them. The average scores are easy. Correlation is going to be a little bit more difficult. Okay. The correlation between self-esteem and years spent in underwater basket weaving is 0.50. 0.50. In other words, let's put this in language someone else will understand. In other words, the more years you spend underwater basket weaving, self-esteem, positive correlation
Goes up.
goes up. Or the fewer years I spend underwater basket weaving, goes down. Yep. Positive correlations, best friends, they move everywhere together. All right, let's finish that first. Correlation between hours spent underwater basket weaving and self-esteem is negative 0.03. Almost zero. Almost zero. In other words, they don't have anything to do with each other. yes, you could say as one goes up, the other goes down, but it's so tiny. In other words, there's like no relationship. Those two things are not related. Okay? The number of hours you spend is not related to self-esteem. The number of years you spend is. Okay? So far, so good? Identify at least one plausible explanation. People who participate in underwater basket weaving have higher self-esteem than people do not. One possible explanation for this, don't miss the obvious ones, is underwater basket weaving increases self-esteem. And you may remember from your midterm, because this is cross-sectional design, the other possible explanation is this: people with high self-esteem are more likely to go underwater basket weaving. Right. Okay. One of them. Okay. This one gets a little trickier, so we'll start with the first one. Strong positive correlation between years spent underwater basket weaving and self-esteem. The more years you spend underwater basket weaving, the higher your self-esteem. One possible explanation for this is it's a difficult skill, and so by doing it long-term, you're building your self-esteem. No correlations are really hard. You're like, one possible explanation for this is, well, it doesn't work. Like that one's tricky. Okay, so sometimes you can leave that one. Leave that one be. But if I were to, I'm going to back up a second and draw a conclusion. So a conclusion, if I look at these correlations together, okay, underwater basket weaving improves self-esteem over the long term, regardless of how many hours a week you do it. Years matter, hours don't. Years matter, hours don't. So let's think about a recommendation. Okay. Let's start with this, and I'll tell you again, okay? Years matter, hours don't. Years matter, hours don't. So, if I'm going to make a recommendation to Underwater Basket Weaving Association, okay, I'm going to tell them they're going to offer classes. What should we tell them about their classes? Do they need to be 4 hours? Is it okay if they're 30 minutes a week? Try to keep people engaged long term. They can be short classes. Keep people engaged long term because years matter. Hours per week don't, so they can be short classes. That's how we convert that into a recommendation. If I were to make a recommendation, so CDC, so Centers for Disease Control, is really concerned about people's mental health. Right? So if I were to make a recommendation to the CDC, I might tell them, encourage people to go underwater basket weaving, because people who go underwater basket weaving have higher self-esteem than people who do not. Can you kind of see how I'm extrapolating from the data to make recommendations? I don't. And then limitations, we talked about cross-sectional design. If nothing else, I want you to think about cross-sectional design and what that allows us or doesn't allow us. I've taught this class for like 10 plus years now. And I've yet to figure out a good way to teach this skill other than just to do examples. So if you have ideas, tell me. Okay. You want to launch a meditation program. Just to tie some pieces together from class, this is your strategy. Okay. For ASU students to help them reduce stress. What's your outcome? Prior to the beginning of your program, you collect some data from ASU students, cross-sectional design. Based on the following information, what will you do? All right, here's your information. Okay, correlation between number of friends and stress is -0.56. Okay, a little tricky. Standard deviation for stress for SCRD students is 0.21, small. Standard deviation for stress for other majors is 0.95, bigger. Students who participate in student clubs report an average stress level of 2.5. Students who do not participate in student clubs report an average stress level of 2.2. So you actually got more stress if you're in student clubs. And then one more piece. If we look at average stress by year in school, seniors are the most stressed, followed by freshmen. First year. We're supposed to say first year. First year. So that's your data. I'm going to walk you through the first explanation, and I'm going to let you make recommendations. Okay. Strong negative correlation. Strong negative correlation. You're pretty sure. Leslie, odd or even?
Even.
It is even. Your row or pick another row. They didn't go after you this time. Row one. All right, row two, strong negative correlation. As number of friends increases, stress decreases. As stress increases, number of friends decreases, right? We don't know which comes first. Good. Standard deviation for stress, low standard deviation for stress for SCRD students. Okay. High standard deviation for non-SCRD students. I won't pick on somebody because we haven't done this in a long time. Okay. Anybody want to take a stab? What would you tell someone who's not taking this class? What does that mean? Well, it's like a bunch of jargon and numbers. How can I explain that to someone in like language they would understand? That being like the standard deviation is 0.21. That's like, I don't know. If I were to think about stress, okay, among SCRD students, okay, is your stress largely similar to each other or is it more spread out? Similar, or similar, because it's a low standard deviation. So, doesn't matter what your stress is, you might be high stress, low stress. This doesn't tell me. It tells me you're all pretty similar. Okay. If I look at other majors, it tells me some are really stressed, some are not. They're all over the map. Okay. Yours is a little more here, theirs is all over the map. Okay. And then the last one is pretty self-explanatory. People in student clubs are more stressed than people who are not. Okay. The graph is pretty self-explanatory. Seniors and first-year students are more stressed. Take these data. Take a minute or so, talk to each other. How does this inform, you're going to design a meditation program, right? How are you going to do it based on these data? What would this data tell you to do? Okay. Take a minute and talk to each other. You can think for a minute if that helps.
Other majors. But we have to calculate how. I don't know, I'm so stuck on student. Oh my God. Like my brain. Yeah. I'm working on
Step two, we just did. So you jumped. We just did that one together.
Oh.
No, but step two is a plausible explanation. Now I can.
The last one. Sorry, I don't know if I can.
Okay. So a little tap. Yeah, make recommendations.
Yeah. 2.4 versus 2.2, how do you calculate the deviation? Oh, we put something on the board that was like y equals mx plus b extra I. I don't know. I was like, is that how you calculate it? I don't know.
I think that's a little different.
That's plus by now. I don't know how to calculate the deviation. I don't either. I don't know. What's the formula to calculate the deviation?
What's the formula?
Yeah, like how do you figure out what the deviation is? You just put it in your Excel?
You don't want to know that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I can walk you through the formula, but it's complicated.
Just put it in my Excel.
That equals STP.
It is nice to know.
It's how you do it. Sorry, I'm gonna answer. You may regret asking it. Okay. Especially you calculate the mean score for the
You're doing
entire
COVID.
group.
Honest, you're doing that's one.
Then you take each individual
subtract their score from the mean score. So now you
So
they
really
don't have
club
to difference.
involvement
Yeah.
is a
Then
slightly
you square that.
stress level that's non.
So you make sure all the numbers are positive, because otherwise the positive and negative can't each other.
So
That's it.
Then you take the average of that difference.
That's the better one.
isn't that
You're like, I
why?
can't even tell her, can you stop now? And then you take the square root of that.
They don't participate in
Okay.
clubs, but it's not gonna do much.
So
Yeah.
for part three, do we need to know the deviation?
Yeah, look. It's like, I mean, why did you ask?
For the third bullet point, do we need to know the deviation or no?
I told you the deviation, 0.21 and 0.95.
Oh, for the third one as well?
Oh, I'm sorry, repeat your question. For the third one, do you need to know the deviation?
Yeah.
You don't need.
Oh,
Kind of like the recommendation.
I mean, it might be,
Yeah.
I mean, more data is always gonna help you, but you're often kind of stuck with what you have.
Sleep function.
Yeah, I think
Sleep
three,
potion, wow.
I think three is just the more you motivated, the more stress you know.
My class at 4.
It's like, unless you ask what they were.
But
Sorry.
I'm
You
gonna.
get minus points if you don't go.
That's the thing, yeah.
The really clubs are more for like time.
I can't believe it's
Like, where are we having classes?
Hear me now, clap once. All right, let's start with the last one, because I think this is the easier one. Okay.
Halloween is a.
Students participating in student clubs report an average stress level of 2.4. Okay, so students in clubs are more stressed than students are not, okay? If you're designing a meditation program, what are you gonna do with that information? Megan?
Maybe advertise your program during club meetings.
Okay, maybe advertise during club meetings, okay? You're gonna target people in student clubs, because they need it more. Because they are the most stressed out, they need it more. We'll skip standard deviation for a second. Okay, I like this. So correlation between number of friends and stress is negative 0.56, strong negative, okay? As stress goes, sorry, as number of friends goes up, stress goes down. Do you have a question, or do you want to chime in?
I thought you were done, sorry.
I'm done now. Sorry.
I thought that you were going to ask, who is the suggestion for that one? Sorry.
Yeah, okay, now I'm asking you as a suggestion for that one. Go.
It was, to make the meditation more community based. So you could do like activities that are centered around like doing meditation with my friends and do this.
Yeah, that's great. So key here, so friends are gonna help.
Yeah.
That's perfect, Annika. Friends are gonna help also, so you wanna get friends involved. So to Annika's point, like you make it more community based. I forgot how you said it better than I am, but you're gonna engage friends, okay? Or maybe you offer like bring a friend for free. But anyway, you can help people also bring their friends, engage friends, because your goal is to decrease stress. Okay, we know that friends, there's a relationship between friends and stress. Okay, so you want to somehow encourage people to involve their friends.
You could bring a friend and get a free yoga mat.
Exactly, bring a friend and get a free yoga mat. Okay. Anything you can do to connect, bringing in friends. This is not going to help you because it's hard to think of a recommendation here because you really need more data. Okay, you really need more data here. Like so what is driving why are non-SCRD majors more stressed out? Okay, why might you might want to answer this. Why do you think CRD majors their stress might be more similar? What's a plausible explanation for this? And other majors might be more spread out. What's a good explanation for that, Tessa?
For most SCRD students, the end goal for like.
Okay, yeah, so you're combining data there, which is great. You're a step ahead of me. But it's great. Because Tessa also added the fact that seniors are the most stressed out, right? So everybody is in that same experience together. Right? So yeah, Candace.
We also take a lot of the same class.
That's where I tend to go,
Yeah.
yeah, because you're in the same classes together largely, where someone in social work, which has 27,000 students, I don't know. they don't know each other, they're taking different classes, so they're likely to have a different experience. Your experience is much more similar. Okay, so it would not be surprising, and I made these data up, by the way, but it would not be surprising if you were more similar and other majors were more different. Okay. So a little hard to pull a recommendation out of that, and I will never give you a standard deviation on a exam. What do we do with this? Who needs our meditation program? Seniors. Seniors in first year. Okay, so we're targeting seniors. Maybe our flyer says, stressed about your internship, come to meditation class. You're like,
The whole class walks in there.
I always think, by the way, it's a little cruel that most of you take this class before your internship, because for many, not all of you, this is one of, if not the hardest CRD classes you take. And then we put it in the semester you're most stressed out already. Totally unfair to me, because now I have to deal with your stress. I'm like, it's all about me. Yeah. So that's how we use data. We always want more data. And there's always people going, yeah, that's not enough data for me to really make decisions. I'm like, I know, welcome to the real world. You really frequently don't have enough data. You want more data. You want more data. Okay,
I know this, I'm gonna start trying. How many students are in the whole?
All right. What questions? We'll practice that skill a little bit more. App 6, which is a little bit down the road. I give you, it's short, but it requires your brain. I give you some data and I say, walk me through the process, make recommendations. What does it mean, make recommendations? Yeah, Abby.
Question, what would you say is the average number of students in SCRD that graduates per semester? Or at least in the spring?
Wait, sorry, you asked a different question. I thought you were going to repeat it.
Like the average number of students that graduate from SCRD in the spring?
In the spring,
Yeah. Like, is there like 200 people at graduation or is it like 50 or?
no, it's more than 50, less than 200.
I feel like 1,000 in our school. It's
I
no.
would say, so let me back this out. We have about
Well, that's our question is how many are in the program?
We have about 300 in-person students, 200 to 300 online students.
Oh, 300?
Yeah, the online program's as big as the in-person.
Yeah.
We have another, they don't come to our graduation, we have another 1,000 students in China.
Oh.
Yeah, they take the same class as you. So we break that down roughly 75 a year. So a couple of, hardly anybody walks in December anymore.
Yeah.
Most people just wait because it's more fun. May's more fun and you're with your friends.
Yeah.
Some people are like, I'm moving, I want to do the experience, they do it, but so 75-ish, 50 to 75, I'd say. Is that average? We're definitely the smallest of the 4 schools.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like CRD, social work,
Yeah.
criminal justice.
At least it was last where I love it. Yeah, I love a short graduation.
It's not though, because we're together with the other 4 schools. But they are like, it's like 2 hours.
So we have to sit through social work.
Yeah, but trust me, it's 2 hours. Their machine. They're like, and I don't know your last names, but it's like Abby, Grace, Colton, Paige, like it's a machine.
Does it have to be alphabetical as well?
No, you just show up and sit with whoever you like.
But how do they
Within
know
the-
though? Oh, you hand them
You hand them a piece of paper, yeah.
You guys wanna walk together all the time?
All right, I'm happy to answer questions about graduation, but what other questions do you have? Megan?
So at the very end of that for the conclusions.
Mhm.
So since we're learning about conclusions right now.
So if you're like, I turned in at 4, but now I don't like the conclusions I drew and you want to go back, then just ping me before I grade it and that's fine.
I don't know if I did the first
Yeah.
period.
I will tell you, graduation this is a fall, so it's a while away, but so you'll probably forget this, but
we, meaning your faculty, like to see you. So don't just like run away when you're done, like, like we're always like outside going, hey, and it's gonna be like, thanks for remembering us. All right. Oh, sorry, we're almost there, but, let me walk you through a few other things. Okay. At 5. I think I got the order right. Maybe I might be mixing up app 6. One of your app assignments, because I feel like we've made good pace the last couple times, without totally losing you. And I realize these are hard concepts, but I feel pretty good about it. So what we're going to do, next week. Let's just look at so, Tuesday, in class, we're gonna spend some time working on, and I may have switched the order of the app, but one of your application assignments, I may have switched the order of them. Okay. But we're gonna walk through a chunk of it together. Okay. It's not gonna be like, come in, do it, I'm gonna hang out. We're gonna walk through it together. And that's kind of, so that's what Tuesday is gonna look like. Next Thursday is one of my favorite classes. It's a bit off topic. Well, it's relevant, but it's not linear. So next Thursday, because this class is about research and that, so we're gonna talk about the research, how things get published, what types of universities there are, what that has to do with research and what that has to do with you. We're gonna talk about your faculty and what's the difference between an assistant professor and associate professor. No, assistant professors don't assist anybody. What's the difference between an associate professor and associate teaching professor? So we're going to talk about all that. It's loosely relevant to this class, and I gave that lecture one year kind of on a whim, and people liked it. So we're going to talk about. You're safe, water is safe. So that's going to be next Thursday. The following week, so November 5th, which is election day, we're actually not gonna have class, so you can go vote. There'll be some online materials for you. The following Thursday, you're gonna be probably, following Thursday will be about visual presentation. Kaylee will be here. Some of you know Kaylee. Kaylee is going to be here and give that lecture. I'm going to be at North Carolina State all that whole week evaluating their program that's like ours. So they've asked me to come like spend a couple days with them and evaluate their program, their degree program. So I'm going to be in NC State that week. So no class that Tuesday, Thursday, Kaylee will be here. This is the day we'll start thinking about the project, then you review, and then remember I told you over your exam early. Again, if you're like getting nervous, all the materials are already on Canvas. You can look ahead. And then the rest of the time is going to be devoted to your projects. So, again, it does get easier and easier. Like brain-wise, there's work to be done. There's work to be done. I'm not going to pretend there's not. But the hard brain work is like we've done the really hard stuff. We've done the really hard stuff. Now it's just applying it, knocking out those assignments, and moving forward. What questions do you have? Comments?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We talked about Alicia Montalvo on October 21st. No, I'm joking.
We're talking about Alicia Montalvo.
Dr. Alicia Montalvo.
Am I supposed to know?
What?
I'm supposed to know who this is?
EXW 215.
Oh, your other, yeah.
Yeah, my favorite professor.
Indirectly, we can,
Okay.
yes. I need to look up, I'll look up her bio. All right, questions, comments, snide remarks? That kind of was a snide remark, but no one else realized it. All right, have a wonderful weekend. Sweet.
Coming to class tonight? I can't wait for it.
I will be there.
I'm going bad. Freaking happy.